The disappearing road. In the heart of rural Pennsylvania, there is a road that locals speak of in hushed whispers. They call it Larkspur Lane, though its name doesn't appear on any map. The road is said to materialize under certain conditions: a foggy night, a lonely stretch of highway, and a driver reckless or desperate enough to take a turn they shouldn't. The legend warns that once you're on Larkspur Lane, you'll never find your way out. I didn't believe the stories. As a long-haul trucker, I'd seen my share of strange things: phantom hitchhikers, abandoned cars with engines still warm, but nothing supernatural. That all changed one rainy October night. I was behind schedule, hauling a load of electronics to a distribution center in upstate New York. The rain poured relentlessly, my wipers struggling to keep up. The GPS on my dashboard blinked out for a moment, then recalibrated, suggesting a detour. The new route cut through a dense patch of woods, a shortcut that could shave an hour off my trip. I hesitated but decided to take it. The moment I turned onto the road, a chill ran down my spine. The headlights illuminated a narrow, cracked asphalt path bordered by towering trees. The rain seemed to vanish, as if the road existed in its own pocket of stillness. About a mile in, my radio began to emit static, then died altogether. My phone had no signal, and the GPS screen froze. That's when I noticed the road ahead shifting, literally moving, as if alive. The trees seemed closer, their branches forming a canopy that blocked out the sky. Behind me, the road was gone. Only dense forest stretched into the darkness. I stopped the truck and stepped out, hoping to get my bearings. The silence was oppressive. No rain, no wind, no animals, just an unnatural stillness. Then I heard it. Faint whispers carried on the non-existent breeze. As I climbed back into the truck, my headlights caught movement. A figure stood in the middle of the road, drenched in shadows. I honked, but they didn't move. Against my better judgment, I got out again and approached. It was a man, his clothes torn and muddy. He looked gaunt, his eyes sunken and wild. "You shouldn't be here," he croaked. "It doesn't let you leave." "What doesn't let you leave?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "The road," he whispered. "It takes you. It feeds on you." The man begged to come with me, and though I wasn't sure I could trust him, I couldn't leave him behind. We climbed into the truck, and I started driving again, hoping to find some sign of civilization. But the road didn't cooperate. It twisted and turned, leading us in circles. Familiar landmarks reappeared, and no matter how far we drove, the scenery remained the same. Then the whispers returned, louder this time. They came from all directions, murmuring unintelligible words. The man beside me began to panic, clutching his head and rocking back and forth. "They're coming," he muttered. "They always come." The first shadow appeared in my peripheral vision, a fleeting silhouette darting between the trees. Then another, and another. They weren't human. Their forms were jagged, like ink blots come to life, their movements erratic and unnatural. The man screamed as one of the shadows darted across the road, its form momentarily solid. It had no face, only a gaping void where its features should have been. The truck stalled. The engine refused to turn over, and the headlights flickered before going dark. The whispers became screams, overlapping voices filled with rage and despair. The man beside me bolted, running into the trees. I yelled for him to stop, but he disappeared into the shadows. I stayed in the truck, gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. The figures circled closer, their movements erratic but deliberate. Then the truck started on its own. The headlights blazed, revealing the road ahead, now stretching impossibly straight. I pressed the gas, desperate to escape, but the road seemed endless. As I drove, the road began to change. The asphalt cracked and crumbled, replaced by cobblestones slick with blood. The trees bent and twisted, their branches forming grotesque shapes, faces screaming in eternal agony. The truck's radio crackled to life, a voice whispering my name. "Come home," it said. The voice was my mother's, though she'd been dead for years. "Join us," she whispered. "We're waiting for you." Hours or maybe days later, I spotted a figure ahead, lying in the middle of the road. It was the man who'd run off earlier, his body contorted in an unnatural position. I stopped the truck and approached cautiously. His eyes were wide open, his face frozen in a mask of terror. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then he grabbed my arm, his grip ice cold. "You can't leave," he rasped. "No one leaves." Desperation took over. I floored the gas pedal, determined to outrun whatever force controlled the road. The truck roared down the path, the shadows chasing me, their whispers turning into guttural growls. The road began to disintegrate beneath my wheels, chunks of asphalt falling away into a void of nothingness. Ahead, I saw a bridge, a narrow, rickety structure spanning a chasm of darkness. I didn't think, I just drove. The bridge groaned under the weight of the truck. Halfway across, the shadows reached me, clawing at the cab. The whispers turned into screams, voices accusing me of sins I couldn't remember. As I reached the other side, the bridge collapsed behind me, taking the shadows with it. The truck skidded to a stop, and I realized I was back on the highway. The road was gone. My GPS worked again, and the rain had returned. But I wasn't the same. My reflection in the rear view mirror looked wrong. My eyes were darker, my face gaunt. When I got home, I found a black mark on my wrist, shaped like a winding road. And then the whispers returned. I'm still driving, unable to stop. The road appears in my rearview mirror, no matter where I go. I've tried abandoning the truck, but it always finds me. The road wants me back, and sooner or later it will take me